The cold metallic walls of the alien prison ship hummed with the soft hum of far-off engines, the sound echoing in the dimly lit corridors. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of sterilized steel and the distant murmur of alien voices. Most prisoners were faceless, humans, enslaved and kept in dark, cramped cells. But today, something different was about to unfold. Commander ZRYX of the Galactic Syndicate paced back and forth in front of the prison control room, his eyes narrowed with an emotion he hadn't felt in years: doubt. His mission had been simple: capture the humans, study their weaknesses, and ensure that the galaxy's most dangerous species was fully under control. The Syndicate had made their move quickly, striking Earth in the dead of night, sweeping through cities with a military force that was supposed to be unbeatable. Human resistance had been crushed in mere hours. The humans were primitive, weak, and easily subjugated, at least, that's what ZRYX had believed. But now, after weeks of holding thousands of prisoners, things were different. He couldn't shake the growing sense that there was something deeper happening, something he hadn't accounted for. The humans, locked in their cells, were not broken. Not by the endless interrogations, the mind-warping devices, the isolation. They held their heads high, staring back at their captors with eyes full of something ZRYX couldn't name. They didn't cower. They didn't fear. The twist, however, was that this wasn't just any group of humans. These were children. The youngest of their kind, torn from their homes, their schools, their families, and yet, despite being far from their planet's boundaries, they had shown a defiance no other species in the galaxy had ever dared to display. ZRYX stopped pacing and turned to his subordinate, a tall, wiry alien named Still, who stood near the communications terminal, studying the data feeds. "Is it true?" ZRYX's voice was hard, his throat tight with an unspoken question. "Did we capture them?" Still glanced up, the corner of his mouth curling slightly in disdain. "Yes, Commander. We've secured every last one of them. The Earthlings were caught off guard, as we predicted. They put up a weak resistance, and we've got their children, hundreds of them, aboard the ship. We've already begun conducting experiments on their physiology. Nothing we haven't seen before. Simple creatures, really." ZRYX nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. The information Still had shared was consistent with the Syndicate's plans. But something felt wrong. These weren't just simple creatures. They were something else entirely. He could feel it every time he observed the human children through the ship's surveillance systems. They were resilient, clever, and unexpectedly resourceful. The prisoners had tried to escape. They had refused to break. Even the youngest ones, some no older than 7 or 8, were plotting, communicating, organizing. It was maddening. How were they doing this? Just as ZRYX was about to speak, a loud, jarring sound filled the control room, a loud thud, followed by the sound of muffled shouting and scrambling from down the hall. "What is that?" ZRYX barked, his voice rising in anger. Still's expression darkened as he hit a series of buttons on the console. "We're getting an anomaly in the holding cells. A breach in the containment field." ZRYX's mind raced. Impossible. No human, let alone children, could break through their containment. The Syndicate had designed their cells to be impenetrable. The children were isolated, shackled, their movements restricted. There was no way they could. Suddenly, the door to the control room slammed open. 2 of ZRYX's guards, panicked and out of breath, rushed in. "Commander. The children, they're organizing." ZRYX's eyes widened. The guards continued, their voices trembling with disbelief. "They've broken out of their cells, Commander. They've overridden the door codes. They're using our technology. They've taken control of the central system." A chill ran down ZRYX's spine. Impossible. The human children had done what the most advanced beings in the galaxy had been unable to do. They had hacked into their system. They had turned the Syndicate's own security measures against them. "I don't believe it," ZRYX muttered under his breath. His mind reeled. How could children, pull this off? But before he could react, an alarm blared throughout the ship, accompanied by flashing red lights. "Commander, they've initiated the override," Stills said in a low, stunned voice. They're activating the ship's weapons systems." ZRYX stood frozen for a moment, paralyzed by the gravity of the situation. The human children had done the impossible. They had stolen the ship's control from under his nose. The ship, once his to command, was now in the hands of the very prisoners he had thought were helpless. A voice came through the intercom, distorted but clear. "You think you've captured us?" It was a child's voice, clear, unwavering, and somehow more menacing than anything ZRYX had ever heard. "You think you can break us? You're insane." ZRYX's eyes flicked toward Still. "Get them back in their cells. Now. Whatever this is, we can't let them." But before he could finish, the entire ship shook violently. ZRYX's grip tightened on the console as the room rumbled and alarms blared. "We've lost control of the power core," Still gasped, his fingers flying over the terminal. "The children, they've activated our own weapons systems. They're launching every single ship in the fleet." The voice on the intercom echoed once more defiant than ever, "We're not prisoners anymore. Welcome to our rebellion." The very ground beneath ZRYX's feet seemed to fall away. The children, the prisoners he had thought so weak, had turned the tables. They had stolen the galaxy's might from the most powerful race in the universe. The Syndicate had underestimated humanity before. And now, they were about to pay for it in ways they couldn't even begin to comprehend. The ship shook again, this time with even more force. ZRYX gripped the console, fighting to maintain control as the alarms screamed louder. The once steady hum of the engines was replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the chaotic system warnings and the distant thrum of approaching human gunfire echoing down the hallway. "What the hell is going on?" ZRYX snarled, his fingers moving rapidly across the controls in a desperate attempt to regain control. But nothing responded. His eyes flicked to Still, whose expression was one of complete disbelief. "Commander," Still gasped, his voice trembling. "We've lost the primary navigation systems. The children, they're controlling everything. They've overridden the entire fleet's command codes." ZRYX's mind raced. This was impossible. The Syndicate's technology was far beyond anything humanity could hope to grasp, let alone manipulate. These were children, no older than 10 or 12, but somehow they had torn through the most secure defenses of the entire fleet. They were using their knowledge, their instincts, and the technology they had taken from the ship, against them. The irony of it wasn't lost on ZRYX. They had captured humanity's future, believing them weak, believing them easy to crush. But now, the children had not only turned their prison into a weapon, they had turned the entire fleet into a death trap for the very forces that sought to dominate them. ZRYX's mind was a whirlwind, spinning between panic and rage. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Explain this to me, Still." Still's face was pale, his breath shallow. He turned toward ZRYX, his eyes filled with terror. "I don't know, Commander. I've never seen anything like this before. They must have tapped into our central systems. The core must be compromised. Every ship in our fleet is being overridden. They're using our own weapons against us. We can't stop them." Another jarring tremor shook the ship, followed by the crackling sound of radio transmission. The voice that came through the intercom was unmistakable, distorted but defiant, and filled with a chilling calm. "Did you think we were just helpless? Did you think you could break us so easily?" The child's voice rang out, the words sharp and filled with purpose. "You've made a mistake. A big one." ZRYX's hand tightened around the edge of the console as he stared at the source of the transmission. It was coming from the lower levels of the ship, one of the deepest, most secure zones of the prison. How had they gotten access to the communication systems? "Why are you doing this?" ZRWX spat, his voice dripping with disbelief and anger. You're children. You have no understanding of what you're doing. You're playing with forces far beyond you. The voice on the intercom chuckled softly, a sound that sent a shiver down ZRWX's spine. Playing? No, Commander. This isn't a game anymore. This is survival. You thought we were weak, just children, easy targets. But you've underestimated us. You've underestimated humanity. The calmness of the child's voice was like ice to ZRWX's core. He had seen many things in his long career, rebellions, uprisings, battles, but he had never encountered anything like this. These were children. His species had faced down entire civilizations with ease. They had crushed races that had dared challenge them. But now, these human children were tearing through the ship's security, manipulating their systems, and turning the Syndicate's most advanced weapons on its own forces. How? Do you want to know how we're doing this, Commander? The voice asked, almost mockingly. It's simple. We've been watching, listening, learning. From the moment we stepped onto your ship, we knew we had the power to control it. All we had to do was wait for the right moment. ZRWX's blood ran cold. The thought that children, in their innocence and simplicity, had been studying, calculating, waiting for their chance, it was maddening. They had turned the Syndicate's technology into a tool for their own revolution. But there was something even more terrifying in the voice, the confidence. These children had no fear. They were playing a game, all right, but they weren't the pawns. They were the players. The power core, ZRWX muttered under his breath, his eyes widening in sudden realization. They're going for the power core. They'll destabilize it. The entire fleet will be destroyed. Still's face went pale. We have to stop them, Commander. We have to stop them now. But ZRWX was already moving, barking orders as he struggled to pull whatever control he could back. Initiate lockdown procedures. Shut down all external access points. Seal off the core systems. The bridge lights flickered, and the intercom crackled once more. The voice, now more defiant, boomed out. You're too late, Commander. The core is already ours. We've already taken control of it. ZRWX's eyes darted to the security feeds. The children had done it. The power core, the heart of the entire fleet, was now in their hands. If they unleashed its full force, the explosion would be catastrophic. It would obliterate every ship in the fleet, and with it, the Syndicate's entire operation. No! ZRWX shouted. You can't do this. But the child's voice cut through the tension, calm and unwavering. We can, Commander. And we will. The screens in front of ZRWX flashed red as the countdown began, a ticking clock counting down the seconds to their destruction. The children had succeeded. They had turned the tables. They had done the impossible. The fleet was now at their mercy. The countdown echoed through the walls of ZRWX's command bridge like a death sentence. Each passing second felt like an eternity. The Syndicate's fleet, once a symbol of absolute power, was now a ticking time bomb, its fate sealed by the very children they had captured. ZRWX stood frozen, his mind reeling as the red lights on the console blinked faster, signaling the approach of the inevitable. Commander, we don't have much time, Still's voice was strained, filled with panic. If they've gained full control of the power core, they can detonate the entire fleet. We're all going to die unless we stop them. ZRWX's mind raced. He had been trained for war, for strategy, for anything that could come at him, except this. He couldn't understand how it had happened. How these children, who were supposed to be nothing more than prisoners, had outwitted the Syndicate so easily. It was a humiliation beyond anything he could have imagined. Prepare for evacuation, ZRWX barked, his voice suddenly sharp with authority. He wasn't going to go down without a fight. If the fleet was lost, at least he could survive. He would live to make these humans regret their defiance. But just as he gave the order, a new transmission came through, cutting off his thoughts. The voice on the other end was unmistakable, carrying the same chilling calm that had haunted ZRYX since the beginning of this debacle. "Commander ZRYX," the child's voice came through the intercom again, strong and unyielding. "You've made your decision. But you're not the one in control anymore. We are." ZRYX's breath caught in his throat. He looked to Still, whose face mirrored his own disbelief. The human children were speaking directly to him. How? How could they be so confident, so aware of their power? "You're insane." ZRYX spat, trying to regain his composure. "You think you can hold an entire fleet hostage? You think you can take on the Syndicate and win?" There was a long pause on the other end of the transmission. ZRYX could hear the sound of soft laughter, but it wasn't the laughter of children. It was the laugh of someone who had just realized the truth, the kind of laugh that sent chills down your spine. "We don't need to take on the Syndicate," the child said, the words dripping with a newfound sense of power. "You already did the hard part. You've captured us, tortured us, and pushed us to the edge. But it's you who underestimated us. It's you who thought we were weak." ZRYX's eyes narrowed, fury rising in his chest. "You think this is a game? You're toying with forces you don't understand." "We understand perfectly," the child replied, their tone turning serious, almost somber. "What you don't understand, Commander, is that we've been playing the long game. We've been watching you, learning your systems, studying everything about your technology. And we learned fast." ZRYX's pulse quickened. The child had been watching them, learning. How was that even possible? They were supposed to be prisoners, helpless and broken. How had they learned to manipulate the Syndicate's most advanced systems, their most secure technologies? "You're insane," ZRYX repeated, his voice trembling now. "You can't defeat the Syndicate. We're everywhere. We are the rulers of the galaxy." The child's voice softened slightly, a quiet understanding lacing their words. "You were once. But no one is invincible. Not even the Syndicate. You've lost, Commander. We didn't just capture your fleet. We've already infiltrated your systems, taken over your communications. And now we're going to show the galaxy just how weak your empire really is." The realization hit ZRYX like a blow to the chest. He had underestimated the human spirit. The defiance, the resilience, the will to fight no matter the odds. It wasn't just about hacking their systems. It was something deeper. Something human. They didn't break under pressure. They didn't falter in the face of impossible odds. And now, that spirit was costing the Syndicate everything. The countdown on the console flashed dangerously close to 0. ZRYX's panic began to spiral. He had failed. And there was nothing left to do. As the final seconds ticked down, a calm settled over ZRYX, a grim acceptance. He had been the one who led this fleet, who had allowed his people to believe they were untouchable. And now, the children had proven him wrong. They had proven that, no matter the size of the enemy, no matter how invincible they seemed, there was always a way to fight back. Always. The transmission from the child came through again, their voice carrying one final message: "Goodbye, Commander." ZRYX had no time to react before the explosion ripped through the ship. The power core, now fully under the control of the human children, unleashed its full force, shattering the fleet's defenses in a single, cataclysmic blast. The destruction was swift, overwhelming. Alien ships torn apart by their own power. The once proud fleet, the heart of the Syndicate's might, was now nothing more than cosmic debris floating in the void. And in the midst of the chaos, a single human voice whispered through the wreckage, soft but triumphant. "We've just begun." The vast emptiness of space was momentarily alive with the flicker of destruction. The once unimaginable explosion, caused by the humans' unexpected control over the Syndicate's power core, had left a series of shattered ships and broken fleets floating aimlessly. The star systems once filled with the might of the Galactic Syndicate were now left in utter disarray. But as the debris settled, as the chaos in the void subsided, there was one unmistakable thing: humanity had won. Against all odds, against the most advanced and formidable empire in the galaxy, the human spirit had triumphed. On the bridge of the flagship, General Sarah Hunter stood, watching the devastation unfold on the holographic screens. Her chest still heaved with the exertion of the battle, but there was a calm, resolute certainty in her eyes. She had seen humanity defy expectations time and again, but this was something new. The children, prisoners in the hands of the Syndicate, had done more than just escape, they had reshaped the balance of the galaxy. "General, we've intercepted the last of their communication signals," one of her officers called out, breaking the silence. "The Syndicate is scrambling to regroup, but their communications are in complete disarray. We've broken their command structure." Sarah nodded, but she didn't smile. This wasn't the time for celebration. The Syndicate had been shattered, but Sarah knew that their influence wasn't gone forever. The galaxy was vast, and there were still factions loyal to their cause. Earth's victory was monumental, but it was only a beginning. The true test was yet to come: how would the galaxy respond to this new threat? Would other empires rise in retaliation, or would they recognize the strength of humanity's will? "We need to move quickly," Sarah said, her voice cold and focused. "We've won a battle, but we haven't won the war. Their remnants will scatter, but we can't let them regroup. Prepare the fleet for a defensive position around Earth. I want every defense satellite operational, and we need to start diplomatic talks with the Zorathians. They may have aided us, but we need to know what their true intentions are. No one helps without a price." Just as Sarah was about to continue issuing orders, the command room doors opened. A small, almost inconspicuous figure entered, one of the human children, no older than 10. Her face was smudged with dirt, her clothes torn, but there was something in her eyes that stopped Sarah dead in her tracks. The child's presence in the command center wasn't just a surprise, it was a statement. A statement that this victory wasn't just about the soldiers or the warriors. It was about them, the children of Earth, whose unyielding courage had turned the tide. "General Hunter," the child said in a small, confident voice, walking up to Sarah. "We need to make sure this never happens again." Sarah crouched down, meeting the child's eyes. The child's face was serious, her words full of the gravity of someone who had seen the unimaginable. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, her voice softer now, understanding the depth of what the child was saying. "I mean, we can't just fight. We have to teach the galaxy what we've learned," the child said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "The Syndicate thought they could capture us, break us, and make us into their prisoners. They didn't understand that we would fight back, all of us. But if we don't show them that we can protect ourselves, that we don't need to be controlled, they'll keep coming. They'll try again." Sarah stared at the child for a moment, her mind racing. She had seen human strength on the battlefield, but this child, this voice of innocence and truth, was a reminder of something far more powerful: humanity's refusal to accept defeat, no matter the odds. These children weren't just the future of Earth, they were the voice of change for the entire galaxy. The voice of hope. "We won't let that happen," Sarah said, her voice filled with certainty. "We'll protect this world and ensure the galaxy knows that humanity will not be controlled. But we need to rebuild. We need to show the universe that we will rise from the ashes, and we'll do it together." The child nodded, her eyes gleaming with a wisdom that belied her age. "And we'll make sure they never forget." On the bridge, the crew began to move with renewed energy, inspired by the unspoken truth that had been spoken in those simple words. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for freedom, the freedom to choose their own fate, the freedom to control their own future. And now, that freedom had been won. The universe would have to reckon with it. As Sarah turned to face the stars outside, the full weight of what had just happened settled on her. The battle had been brutal, and the losses were heavy, but Earth had proven something far greater than military might. They had proven that no empire, no matter how vast or powerful, could ever truly break the human spirit. The galaxy was about to change. And humanity was no longer the helpless species hidden in the shadows. They were a force to be reckoned with, a force that would reshape the stars themselves. And it all started with the children.